For starters, if you don't mind saying your name and then spelling your name for us, please.
Yes, my name is Bharat Magu. First name is Bharat, Bharat as in Thomas, and last name is Magu, Magu.
And your title, please.
I'm the Chief Medical Officer at Yuma Regional Medical Center.
First of all, very sorry for your loss. I can imagine what you're going through. Can you tell us about Dr. Das and what you heard about what happened?
Yeah, no, it was a very, very tragic day yesterday for all of us here. I was notified of the crash at around 1:30 p.m. I believe that was an hour after it happened. Again, we waited for some time, tried to confirm the details of the incident. Then, in a few hours, it was pretty much confirmed that Dr. Das was piloting the plane. And at that time, I had conveyed to our medical staff and medical community about the tragedy. So since then, it's been, again, I would say utter disbelief and shock. I think it's, not just the medical community, a lot of patients, who were being helped by Dr. Das. Overnight also keep the messaging. And again, this morning, we are still working through questions and concerns, and, there's a lot of sadness around in the staff right now.
Tell me about Dr. Das' abilities as a doctor, and then also if you could share with us about him as a person.
Yes, again, it's he has been here in Yuma since 2005. I would say, with all respects, a great cardiologist. Has been helping this community for a very long time. Extremely high energy physician, very engaged, very connected with the staff, the nursing staff, and other physicians in the hospital. Very active in the community, was again just a very vivacious personality all around. I personally knew him. He was part of the aviation community. Inspired a lot of physicians to become pilots, and I'm one of the ones. He was the one who encouraged me for a few years, and then finally I took his advice and trained and got my pilot certificate. Very highly trained pilot also at that. He was, he had a lot of experience, thousands of hours, instrument rated. So again, he was had a residence in San Diego where his family lived, but he also, he had a residence in Yuma. He commuted, but also lived here. I think he would spend probably 50% or more of his time in Yuma than in San Diego.
You said he was very highly trained and had, thousands of hours. Was that flight between Yuma and San Diego something you knew he took regularly over the past several years?
Oh, yes. I'm, as I have mentioned this many times, I think this is the track he was familiar with hundreds of times. This is not something he took for the first time. It's that was his, and sometimes he would go in the morning and come back in the afternoon, if he had some needs here. So yeah, this is not something he was not familiar with. He was very, very familiar with this route.
Well, one of the things that other pilots have mentioned that we've spoken to was that he was flying through some very thick and heavy clouds. Have you made that flight yourself and experienced that sort of thing?
I have, I have not flown into San Diego many times, and obviously not in any difficult weather, but I don't even think, again, this is my personal opinion at this point, I don't think that was an issue. He was instrument rated and some degree of cloud, then it was not that bad, the cloud ceiling at that point, that he would not have been able to maneuver through it. And he was flying through an instrument flight plan, so he knew at that point, what the minor weather was. Uh, Again, this is at this point it's an opinion only. I don't think that was contributing factor. It could be, but not for a pilot with his experience and with his meticulous attention to the detail, not only as a cardiologist, but also, for whatever else he did.
As a friend and coworker, can you tell us about Dr. Das as a person and family man?
Yes, he's a very dedicated father, had two boys. I think he was probably the circle of his life. I think he talked about them a lot. I believe one of his sons is also a pilot, a young man. But again, I think he was probably a father and a husband first before he was anything else. And he helped his family and friends back home in India. I know he was a director of a charitable organization, that was helping people with AIDS and other conditions in Zambia and India. So a very dedicated human being. He's a good person, very enthusiastic, very high energy. Always I would say a pleasure to talk to. I mean, he would stop you, ask you questions, and makes friends very easy. So again, one of the, I think I would say, not only a senior but very vivacious personality in our medical community here.
There's a lot of talk today and emotions about the tragic loss of a UPS worker on the ground. But can you speak to what can I imagine that the many lives that Dr. Das has saved there treating heart patients?
Yes, I mean, it could be, easily in thousands, if not more. He has been here a very long time, close to 16 years, and has been taking calls. Had a practice in town. He would do his active procedures in the hospital. So all around, he was part of the development of the heart team, heart program in the hospital. He was part of the core group of cardiologists. So a lot of contributions to the community, to the hospital, and to the patients in this community.
And once again, saying that he encouraged you to become a pilot. His son is a pilot. Can you talk a little bit more about his enthusiasm for aviation?
Loved aviation. Loved. I mean, he was. He would share the intricacies of aviation. And how it's not very dissimilar from decision making, which involves physicians, right? I mean, you have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to take a lot of factors to account before you make a decision. So, especially being a cardiologist, which is very intricate specialty to begin with, and he was the one person who would talk about similarities between being a physician and being a pilot. It's not you don't go with hunches. You don't do things without information. You depend on data. You always have to look at the data first. So those are, I think, the frameworks of being a good physician and being a good pilot. So those were, that I'm certain that inspired not just me, but other physicians and non-physicians to look at aviation as one of their choices.
How big of a loss is this for you there at the Yuma Regional Medical Center?
It's a substantial loss, at least from a well-respected personal standpoint. I think we have a very good and dedicated cardiology team. A lot of physicians in there, but again, I think he was one of the most busiest, if not the busiest, members of that team. And he was In fact, he was on call today and this week. And so, yeah, there is, I mean, I cannot underestimate the impact of this loss, at least mentally and psychologically, and obviously in the cardiology team too. But I think the services will not be impacted. We'll continue to provide what community needs.
Once again, so sorry for your loss. Just to make sure I have some of the facts correct here, he was a father, a married father of 2 sons.
Correct.
He was there at the Yuma Regional Medical Center for 12 years, did you say?
16.
16 years. Do you know his age?
You know, he was in mid-50s, I would say.
Mid-50s. Okay. Anything else you wanted to add?
You know, just keep the family and friends and all relatives in prayers. I think this is a huge loss, I think, for not just here, for the community in San Diego where he was part of.
All right, doctor.